chapter 2 of my book, Let Freedom Reign. Chapter 2 is titled How the Federal Reserve System Works and What It Has Been Created to Do. Background music from my bird. Alright. The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago published a workbook describing how the Federal Reserve System works, titled Modern Money Mechanics. That workbook is truly the best source of understanding how their fraudulent monetary system operates. It is, however, written very deceptively in an attempt to hide the destructive nature of their monetary system. The first sentence of the Federal Reserve's Modern Money Mechanics reads, "The purpose of this booklet is to describe the basic process of money creation in a fractional reserve banking system." From its onset, the book bruises serpents. This sentence is purposely deceiving in an attempt to deter anyone from trying to understand how money is created in a fractional reserve system. It strongly implies that you would have to read the entire workbook in order to understand the money creation process. The truth is that a complete and thorough explanation of the process, intertwined with many distracting issues, is given in the first 11 pages of the workbook. Amidst all of the distracting issues that are talked about in the first 11 pages, page 2 has a sentence that reads, "The money creation process takes place primarily through transaction accounts." Page 3 has a section titled, "Who Creates Money?" Scattered in that section it says, "The actual process of money creation takes place primarily in banks. They, the banks, increase deposits when the proceeds of loans made by the banks are credited to borrowers' accounts. Banks can build up deposits by increasing loans. Bankers discovered that they could," this is Modern Money Mechanics. I'm quoting from Modern Money Mechanics. This is not me adding a thing to it. This is their own words. I cut and pasted from Modern Money Mechanics to this. It's not plagiarizing, I'm saying this is what the book does. Still, Modern Money Mechanics. Bankers discovered that they could make loans merely by giving their promises to pay, or bank notes to borrowers. This is in Modern Money Mechanics, their book. I'm just quoting what's in their book, in my book. In this way, banks began, let me just, not even, it's flabbergasting to me that they have a signed confession written for decades. I think Modern Money Mechanics was published in 64, if I'm not mistaken. Oh my goodness, you know, this NDAA stuff, if there's any validity to it, you know, get the Federal Reserve bankers. They admit that they're destroying America. David Rockefeller admits it in his own memoirs, and he even says he stands guilty and proud of destroying America. If there's any validity to anything, those people would be in jail right now. Those people would be arrested under the section of the new fiscal year NDAA for 2012. I'll get back to the book. We need to get mad. Well, anyways. Alright, still from Modern Money Mechanics. Their own words. I'm simply quoting that book. Banks can build up deposits by increasing loans. Bankers discovered that they could make loans merely by giving their promises to pay, or bank notes to borrowers. In this way, banks began to create money. Transaction deposits are the modern counterpart of bank notes. It was a small step from printing notes to making book entries crediting deposits of borrowers. Nothing's being loaned. That's me saying it. That ain't in any book. Nothing's being loaned. Back to my book. Page 5 says, from their book, page 5 of Modern Money Mechanics says, from the standpoint of money creation, and in the footnotes at the bottom of page 5, it reads that all depository institutions, not just commercial banks, have the potential for creating money. At the bottom of page 6 and 7 of their book, it reads, the bank does not really pay out loans. If they did this, no additional money would be created. Loans are made by crediting the borrower's account, by creating additional deposit money. My brother wants to come out. Pages 6 through 10 explain how $90,000 is created out of nothing just because someone asked for a loan or the bank purchased government securities. Page 11 is the chart that accompanies the explanation given from page 6 through 10. I suggest that when you are studying pages 6 through 10, that you pull out the chart on page 11 and place it next to what you are reading. It makes it a lot easier to understand what's going on. At the bottom of page 8 and on through page 9, Modern Money Mechanics explains that banks make money out of nothing when they purchase government securities. It states, this is their book, their own words, suppose that the demands for loans at some bank is slack. These banks would then probably purchase securities. The banks would make payments by crediting accounts just as if loans had been made. The net effect on the banking system are identical with those resulting from loan operations. With regard to the chart you see on page 11, the $10,000 reserve that you see on the left-hand column is represented in the reserves required and reserves excess columns, and also in the deposits columns. In the first row of required and excess reserves, you have 1,000 and 9,000. That is your $10,000 of untouched reserves. On the row underneath that one, you have $1,900 and $8,100. Again, it is the original $10,000. It is that way all the way down the entire two columns. On the deposits columns, take note that the deposits is the money created plus the original untouched reserves. So then, according to the Federal Reserve's Modern Money Mechanics, banks can create money out of nothing simply because there is a demand for a loan or a desire by a commercial bank to purchase a government debt. This is why our entire country, man, woman, child, government, and corporation is in debt to a bank. Ultimately, our entire country is indebted to the Federal Reserve Bank, though, including the commercial banks, because all this debt was created by using Federal Reserve notes. There's more evil to this fraud than the mere subtleties of what is being admitted to in modern money mechanics. One thing to note is that we borrow the currency we use in our economy from the Federal Reserve Bank. If one day they decide to stop loaning us money, then we will run out of money in our economy as we continue to repay our loans and taxes and fees and fines. Another issue of their evil plot is the interest they charge on their money. First off, they have no justification to charge any interest at all because interest can only be merited, arguably, on a loan. I'm not an interest fan, just for those that are. Advocates for interest lending say that the time value of money and the lender's risk justifies interest charges. When someone saves their money and sacrifices its use and pleasure for 30 years and risks loaning their money, they are entitled to a reasonable return for their sacrifice and risk. However, Federal Reserve money no one saves, sacrificed, or worked for. There is nothing being risked. Fed money was created out of nothing, and interest on nothing is robbery. Another issue with regards to the interest charges on debt money is the fact that when debt money is created, it is only created when it is produced as a loan, in which only the principal portion of the loan is ever created. The interest portion is never created. It never exists. So then, all loans can never be paid off simultaneously. This lack of money leaves us struggling against each other because there is never enough money to go around for everybody. Another issue against interest charges is basic legitimacy. This is my favorite argument against charging interest. Let's imagine that money lenders must have existing money to lend. If some people within the money supply, if you're thinking this sounds like money is debt, it's pretty much exactly as money is debt. I plagiarized this paragraph because they said it perfectly. You know, I couldn't say it any better. So, you know, it's one paragraph, guys. Come on, and I'm giving you props. I'm giving you credit. I even mentioned you in the references. So you guys said it the best way. You know, you guys said 1 + 1 = 2 in the best manner. So I couldn't say it any better. So I changed your words as much as possible, so you can't be mad at me. But God bless you for wording it like this. This is literally from the documentary Money is Dead. Not word for word, but they say it kind of like I'm repeating it here. And it is my favorite argument against interest, because it's just math. You can't top it. Let's imagine that money lenders must have existing money to lend. If some people within the money supply begin systematically lending money at interest, their share of the money supply will grow. If they continually reloan at interest, all the money that gets paid back to them, whether it's gold, fiat, debt, or whatever kind of money, it does not matter. The money lenders will end up with all the money, and after all the foreclosures and bankruptcies are all filed, they will get all the real property too. Such a detrimental monetary system to the United States of America is treasonous and unconstitutional. This monetary system exists in our country because of the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, making the Federal Reserve Act itself unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court has ruled an unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights, it imposes no duties, affords no protection, it creates no office. It is in legal contemplation as inoperative as though it had never been passed. Norton versus Shelby County, 118 U.S. 425, page 442. And all laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Marbury versus Madison, 5 U.S. 137, 174, 176 of 1803. And secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. Miranda versus Arizona, 384 U.S. 436, page 491. The fact here is that the Federal Reserve Act is unconstitutional, and the Supreme Court has ruled that an unconstitutional act is null and void. This means that our debt to the Federal Reserve should be null and void according to the laws of our country. It also means that all our debts should be null and void because we have incurred them while under the unconstitutional Federal Reserve System. I'm speechless a little bit because I don't think any more needs to be said. You know, you want to fix America, start using American money. You know, you want to buy American products with foreign money? Why don't we use our own money? Why don't we create our own money? Why are we borrowing our money from the Federal Reserve Bank? As a matter of fact, I have several quotes in here. I just remembered this. I just can't remember exactly who said it, if not, I'll be able to narrow it down. Okay, here it is. This was a United States congressman that said this. Wright Patman. I have never yet met anyone who could, through the use of logic and reason, justify the federal government borrowing the use of its own money. I believe that the time will come when people will demand that this be changed. I believe the time will come in this country when they will actually blame you and me and everyone else connected with the Congress for sitting idly by and permitting such an idiotic system to continue. Let me repeat that last sentence. I believe the time will come in this country when they will actually blame you and me and everyone else connected with the Congress for sitting idly by and permitting such an idiotic system to continue. At this point in time, it's not just the Congress. You now know. I know. I can't move on Washington D.C. by myself and say you're gonna put a correct monetary system to serve my nation. Not by myself. I need my nation with me. But my nation is watching men playing with balls, sitting idly by watching American Idol, as my nation's future is forsaken to these devil worshippers. I go into that in my book also. It's chapter, let's see. Yeah, my chapters are out. Oh, there. The Science of Man. The 5th chapter, I talk about the Luciferian aspect of this. Friends, family, countrymen, lend me your ears. Let's start using American money. Start talking about this. Hey, you know the Federal Reserve notes that are in our pockets? They belong to offshore bankers. You know, the people that own the Federal Reserve Bank, they're not Americans. They're not U.S. citizens. Some are dual U.S. citizens. They're dual U.S. Israeli citizens. Some are Israeli citizens alone. Some are you know, who owns the IMF? You know, they're dual English and U.S. and Israeli citizens. So it's not American money. It's not owned by Americans. It's owned by individuals like David Rockefeller. Oh, I have David Rockefeller's quote in here. Hold on. If there's ever a candidate for the NDAA indefinite detention, is Rockefeller and his family. Look at this. This is David Rockefeller. He wrote this in his memoirs. This is a direct quote from his memoirs. I'm not making this up. This is a quote, I quoted him in my book, David Rockefeller. For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon well-publicized incidents to attack the Rockefeller family for their inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists and conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty and I am proud of it. If this indefinite detention is true in the slightest bit, here's a signed confession by David Rockefeller on himself and his whole family. You want to find somebody who's acting against the best interest of the United States? In his own words, we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States. Indefinite detention. Hey, our first detainees, right there. Who is arrest David Rockefeller and his family, interrogate them as you want. Who is this dark cabal that you are working with against the United States? Mr. I stand guilty of treason against the United States and I am proud of it. David Rockefeller admits to it in his own memoirs. I get animated on film, you know. I try to calm down, but you know, in reality, it's just that they don't hide anything. There is no conspiracy theory. There is no secret. It's out in the open. The ones who blabber secret theory, they don't know. They're sleeper cells. They too are conspiring against our country. Because there's no secret. They're out in the open about it. They tell us all what they're doing. It's not hard to find. It's in their own publications. You don't believe the Federal Reserve is a private bank? You can look it up in the yellow pages. It's in the business section. Call them and ask them. I did. Check out. It's my video. Federal Reserve Bank is a business. The wake up call. I'm gonna edit it with some help from my friends. I don't know. I think enough's been said, man. You know, get off your ass and save America. Who wins the Super Bowl is illegitimate. Who wins? Who wins our inheritance? That's the important thing. Wake up before it's too late. It's this close. We're this close. The economy's not going to collapse. It's collapsing. It's in the process of it. That's why there's so many foreclosures. That's why prices on everything are through the roof. That's why no one can get a real loan anymore. It's just credit. Enough said, man. Get off your ass. Save America. Support your local patriots. All you LULU.com is where you can get the book. LULU.com. Let freedom reigns. Alright, guys.